Welcome to this explainer. Let's dive straight into a massive assumption you're making at this exact second. You're sitting there, looking at your screen, completely convinced that what you're experiencing is the objective truth. But today, we're going to unpack the totally fascinating and honestly slightly unsettling reality about your reality.
You're reading these words right now. It feels absolutely immediate, doesn't it? It feels like you've got this direct, live feed of reality playing out right in front of you, almost like your eyes are just transparent windows looking out into the universe, exactly as it happens.
At least, that's what you think. But the truth is actually way stranger. The raw data flowing from your eyes to your brain, it is definitely not a pristine 4K live stream. It's more like really bad, unedited footage. It's shaky, incomplete, and packed with visual gaps. Your brain essentially acts as an internal editing bay. It cuts, it color corrects, and it fills in the noise. So what it finally hands back to your conscious mind isn't objective reality at all. It's just reality's most plausible version. And we just casually call that seeing.
Section 1. The illusion of right now. Let's look at this number, 80. The exact moment light hits your retina, a whole journey kicks off. Your photoreceptors have to translate that light into electrochemical signals. Then those signals travel down nerve fibers to the occipital cortex and eventually scatter across various processing centers in your brain. That entire biological process takes roughly 80 to 100 milliseconds. So practically speaking, what you're seeing right now is already slightly in the past. You are perpetually living about 80 milliseconds behind the actual universe. And this brilliantly illustrates a massive shift in how we understand vision. Your visual system is absolutely not a camera. When you track a moving object, like trying to catch a ball, driving a car, or just watching someone gesture with their hands, your brain isn't passively showing you where that object is in physical space. Think about it. Because of that 80 millisecond lag, if it actually did that, you would literally miss the ball every single time. Instead, your visual system operates as a prediction engine. It calculates and actively shows you where it predicts the object will be by the time that delay catches up.
Section 2. Inventing your visual world. Let's do a quick experiment right now. Stretch your arms out to either side, but keep your eyes locked straight ahead. Now just notice your fingers and your peripheral vision. You can sense them hanging out there, right? Well, the crazy secret here is that the actual color information your peripheral vision is pulling in is surprisingly thin.
In fact, a huge chunk of the color you see at this exact moment isn't even coming from the outside world. Roughly half the color you're experiencing is being generated right inside your own skull. Why? Well, your retina has about 6 million cone cells. Those are the ones that handle color vision. But the vast majority of them are crammed into a tiny central area called the fovea. That's the exact spot you're using to focus right now. For the rest of your visual field, your brain simply extrapolates based on what it already knows, essentially painting your periphery with highly educated guesses.
Section 3. Editing the present moment.
A really brilliant experiment by neuroscientist David Eagleman perfectly illustrates this editing process. He had participants wear these small vibrating devices, one on the wrist and one on the upper arm. Because the nerve pathway from your wrist is physically longer, a signal from the wrist takes slightly longer to reach your brain than a signal from your arm. But when those signals arrive at slightly different times, the brain does something totally remarkable. It actually waits. It holds on to that earlier signal from the arm, waits to collect the later signal from the wrist, bundles them all together, and then presents them to your consciousness as happening simultaneously. It presents them as now.
As Eagleman perfectly puts it, what you experience as the present moment is a compiled package. He calls this the window of now. It's essentially a rolling interval of roughly 80 milliseconds up to 3 seconds, where your brain stitches all these incoming signals into a single coherent moment. Your present is definitely not a live feed. It's a highly edited broadcast, carefully assembled from sensory puzzle pieces that arrived at completely different times. Section 4. The brain's prediction engine.
What's super fascinating here is how the concept of predictive coding completely flips how we used to think about the brain. For the longest time, neuroscience basically pictured the brain as a simple receiver. A stimulus comes in, the brain responds. Input drives output. But predictive coding totally inverts this. Your brain is constantly generating these top-down predictions about what the world should look, sound, and feel like. So the sensory input arriving from your eyes and ears, that primarily just serves as error correction feedback. Your brain isn't passively processing reality. It's really just processing the difference between its own internal model and those incoming signals.
Because of this setup, perception is mostly just confirmation.
What you see is, in a really large part, what you already expected to see. And this brilliantly explains why optical illusions are just so incredibly stubborn. Take the famous Mueller-Lyer illusion, where two identical lines appear to be completely different lengths just because of those little arrow-shaped ends. Even after you rationally know it's a trick, you still see them as different lengths. You literally can't will yourself to see the truth simply because your brain's prediction system is running entirely below the level of your conscious reasoning.
Section 5. What is actually real? Let's look at this concept called the Umwelt, a term coined by the biologist Jakob von Uexküll. It basically explains that every conscious mind is tightly sealed inside its own subjective perceptual world. Now, there is a physical world out there for sure. You've got objects, light, pressure waves, and our brain's model of all that is an extraordinarily functional representation that keeps us alive. But here's the catch. A representation is not the physical thing itself. There's literally no external reference point we can use to step outside ourselves and check our subjective experience against true objective reality.
To really wrap your head around this, just think about a tick. A tick's entire functional reality is built on exactly 3 variables: light, temperature, and the smell of butyric acid. That is their whole universe, the whole shebang. Now, your reality is obviously way richer than a tick's, but structurally speaking, it's really no different. Reality, for literally any creature on Earth, is strictly limited to whatever its specific nervous system is capable of modeling.
And this brings us to a pretty profound realization. You don't perceive the world. You perceive your brain's version of it. Consciousness itself might just be a highly functional, evolutionarily refined story. And it's a story told so well and so incredibly convincingly that the question of whether it's the absolute unfiltered truth doesn't even need to come up as we go about our daily lives.
If you found this explainer as mind-bending as I do, and you're itching to push your understanding even further, I highly recommend checking out these resources. Dive into the foundational work of Karl Friston on the free energy principle, David Eagleman's book Incognito, and Thomas Metzinger's Being No One. I promise you, they will take these questions way further than most minds are totally comfortable going.
But before you dive into all that, I want to leave you with one final thought. Considering that practically everything you see is a prediction, that the vibrant colors filling your vision are partly manufactured by your own skull, and that your experience of right now is really nothing more than an edited, compiled package playing on an 80 millisecond delay, are you actually reading this?